Very good evening, everyone. Welcome to PitchCam's webinar series. This is the sales leadership and growth marketing series at PitchCam. I'm very excited today to bring in a very young sales leader from our ecosystem. He's someone that I've been following, over the last 6-8 months, and part of the India SaaS ecosystem, very closely working with MT Rajan from the Upika team as well, and he's also been an author. So, before we jump into that, let me take a minute about talking about PitchCamp. So, PitchCamp is an initiative, that I launched about 6-8 months ago with an intent to help people to share their ideas with the world better. So, we do this through investor pitch coaching and through sales coaching for founders and sales teams. The most recent update is, we have now partnered with Draper Startup House as one of their pitch night partners, where we coach startups who have been shortlisted for their pre-pitch night events. We coach them so that they're better prepared, for the live pitch night events before their funding syndicate, right? So with this, I welcome all of you. Thanks for joining in today. I know it's a Friday evening, and we have been able to consistently do this on a Friday evening, 5 p.m. over the last 15 weeks. And I welcome Sandiep Medisetti today, Head of Sales at Almabase. Thank you so much, Sandeep, for joining us on PitchCamp today.
Hey, Bimlesh, thanks a lot for having me. And it's phenomenal that you have been doing this for the last 15 weeks on Friday. I know it's how hard to, pull this off on a Friday evening when everyone, for example, my flatmate has already called a day and he's just chilling, watching some Trevor Noah videos. All right. So it's pretty hard to get people on a Friday evening. Phenomenal. And congratulations with everything that you're doing. And thanks for inviting me.
I couldn't have been more excited. We've been in touch for a while, and I love the way you've put on your book. In fact, that's what caught my attention. And today, excited to share your experiences and your journey on how do we build an outbound SaaS sales engine. And you have been a guy who's been in the trenches, not typical, not a typical a senior sales leader from the industry, if I were to say, from a person who's transitioned from a non-SaaS to a SaaS.
Yeah.
But I guess you're one of those guys who have built your entire experiences and career in the SaaS world completely. Yeah. So I'm sure your perspectives and your experiences will be, of great value add to our ecosystem and to the people who have joined it today.
Hopefully. Hopefully.
Yes. So with this, Sandeep, why don't you run us through a quick, background of yours? How did you get into Almabase? How did you get all this started? And then we'll jump into the outbound SaaS sales engine.
Yep, definitely. Even I'm new to AirMeet. Looks like super cool interface here. Looks like someone is having trouble in opening it in Safari on the chat. But yeah. So I am a chemical engineer by education. Never thought that I would be selling anything, or I even never thought about SaaS when I graduated, right? So all I wanted was, so there are a couple of options for me. There is one PhD admit that I got, and then there's a master's admit that I got. And I said, okay, if I need to build a company, I definitely can't build a company with the chemical engineering background in oil refinery or anything, because they're massive industries. So technology is one thing that I could, where I could go and build a company. So I learned what is technology, how we can leverage it, and then how we can make things accessible and solve problems using tech. And my two of my best friends moved to Bangalore, so I also moved with them. Got an offer from Mu Sigma, but did not join Mu Sigma. I went to the building and just felt overwhelmed by looking at that massive tech park. And I said, okay, no one would even recognize who I am if I am in this tech park. So I need to build something for my own, like some form of an identity where people can recognize depending on my work. So I joined a startup called Boltel, which was started by ex-CTO of Walmart Labs. He just moved back to India. At that time, such a great opportunity for me. and it all came through my alumni, who is the founder of Almabase, right?
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, there's a lot of interlinking there with the alma mater, the alumni, etc., and that is why Almabase. So and then I worked there for 1.5 years, then went and I felt little confident that okay, I can start something on my own, and wanted to build a gaming company, a mobile learning gaming company to teach kids concepts of math and physics. Failed horribly after 8 months. We even though we did a prototype of 30 levels of the game, it did not take off. Primarily, we just couldn't get to the right market fit, right, and build a company, right, or build or find product market fit. That's when I was looking at also my friend and my colleague in Boltel, who was my senior in college as well, and they were building Almabase. I said, okay, what are you guys up to? They said, oh, we recently signed IIM Bangalore. I was like, okay, that's exciting. So who else have you signed up? Then they gave me a bunch of names. I'm like, oh, super excited, and then looked at the problem a little more deeply and felt that, oh, there's an opportunity here, so let me jump in. And I started. I'm the first employee. Started as customer success lead. That was my initial title.
Okay.
Right? So, like what I was doing initially was deploying the customer platforms. Using a technology, collecting feedback, setting up pilots and trials for all of them, and eventually, taking the whole onboarding piece and being support. Right. So we are three of us. One of them is building the product and tech. The other is doing sales and trying to fundraise and hire. And I was just doing everything related to customer. And that's when, after 8 months, what ended up happening was I got so much of feedback in my head from customers where I kept documenting, and then also understood the customers and the problems they're solving better. Both the founders said, "Oh, then why don't you just start selling?" Right? I'm like, okay. uh, let me just talk what I know, and what are the challenges that schools are facing, and I'll address those challenges. That was my approach in the whole sales piece. Never got trained in any format. Was always reading. HubSpot was my big source of skill training academy, if you can say. uh,
Okay.
Consistently referring HubSpot blogs and understanding, okay, how they are scaling, because at one level we used a CRM. That was the only free CRM. We never wanted to invest money in CRM. So we started using their free CRM, and eventually I got into their blogs, and every day in and day out I used to read their blogs and kind of tweak my tactics. Uh, so worked in the Indian market for 1 year, and then we kind of felt that it's a little difficult here, and I'll tell you why later through my slides on why, if you're looking at Indian market, what you need to do. And that's when, then suddenly one day, out of nowhere, there's this one customer who came in, and over the email, she said, hey, we want to explore your product. And this was in the night at like 12 in the midnight. And I was like, okay, I can help you. And we are almost having a chat over email.
Okay.
Right? And in like 45 minutes, she was convinced that, oh, I need to try your product. And I gave her trial for a month. She's from UK. And then, we accidentally came up with a price point saying £5,000. And she said, oh, that's reasonable for the software that you have. We are ready to pay. We like your trial. That's kind of the moment for me where my eyes just lit up and said, okay, someone is ready to pay £5,000 there, and in India I'm struggling to sell it for even 60,000 rupees, which is $1,000. Right? So what is this disparity? Like, what is it?
Disparity.
Yeah, I mean, that means that you need to sell to the right person who has a problem and who perceives it as a problem, rather than you enforcing them saying that, oh, you have a problem and you buy it, right? So that's the big lesson that we have learned. And then we eventually moved to the US market. By 2016, I moved to the US and moved to Boston, and from then on started building. The first 6 months, I was doing a lot of sales activity there, like talking to people, bumping into strangers, just getting comfortable and mixing within the culture of the United States and understanding. I mean, I've been there for schooling for a couple of months, but then I really wanted to understand the human nature there more
Right.
than anything else, because in schooling it was very difficult to understand people, because it was more like, I have my assignments, etc. So not much focus on the other cultural aspect, right? And so now I said that, okay, in Boston, because that is where all the education, like most of the education institutions are in Boston. Like there's Harvard, then there's right next to it there's MIT. I,
Right.
I lived there, and I said, I and my colleague, who is a designer, so we both said that we need to understand these people better. Only then we can, and understand their problems. Only then we can sell to them. That was my, again, whole skill building and understanding of their culture, etc., and the problems that happened there. That's the training that I had. After 6 months, luckily we also got a great advisor from Recruiter Box. His name is Raj Seth, and now he has sold Recruiter Box. He's into his next venture. Amazing executor. uh, and he said that, oh, I can help you guys. So we cold outreach to him, saying that, hey, we are using Recruiter Box. Can you help us? Can you give us a meeting, right? And my co-founder met him, and he said, I can help you. I've been through what you are saying when I first moved to the US and when I first started selling my product, so I can help you. And he literally helped me write email copies. Literally helped me, like, he sat through some of my demos and gave me feedback. What is it that I'm doing right? What is it that I'm doing wrong? So for me, before even understanding all of these mechanics, I was doing like 6 demos a day, and everyone saying, oh, this is a cool feature. Then I used to think that, oh, that means they would buy. No, that's not the case at all. There's more than just giving a demo. That was just one piece. There's more than showing one key feature, right? So, I mean, what is the follow-up process? What is the structure there in the decision-making structure? Who is the key person who is going to call the shots, sign the check, release the purchase order, sign the contracts, right? These are all like little complex, subtle aspects which we need to understand to drive the whole sales motion, which I had like very poor understanding of it. But after 6 months getting beaten up, I was doing probably, like I said, right? So 6 demos, 4 to 6 demos on average, always in the calling room, in the co-working spaces, never
Right.
out. Then after 6 months, I realized that, okay, there is something fundamentally that I'm doing wrong. And with that experiences, I have learned that, okay, this is how you need to do. These are some things that you need to do in sales, etc. And yeah, that's the whole journey of, how I got into sales. Now we are we completely went from 0 to a 7-figure ARR, right? And now we are on our next growth journey, where we are trying to figure out how do we now scale this, double down on the things that we figured out. And since 2018, Upeka has been a great catalyst for us in our growth. And again, at every stage, you would think that you have figured out something, but
Right.
the paradox is that you haven't figured out enough. Right? You still have a lot more to figure out at every stage of your company, and similar to to your sales deals as well. At every stage in your funnel, there are a lot of blind spots that you have. So Upeka has been super helpful for us to kind of polish that engine, and now we are trying to push our growth a little further.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Sorry, long answer. Yeah.
No, not a problem. It helps to get the context, right?
Yeah.
For everyone. So, without further ado, let's get started right into the core content today.
Sure.
So, talk to us about the few things that you want to share. Fantastic.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, Bimlesh. So, like I mentioned, I think the core idea here is to uh, how do we go about building a sales engine, right? And what exactly is SaaS sales? I would also get to that fundamental aspect. So I want to talk about how is it different from other products and services. What are some of the good practices to acquire initial customers, and the key aspects that are involved, and setting targets and measurements. So I would go into depths of some of these aspects, and I'm happy to take any questions in the end. So let's get going here. So typically, a lot of the founders, when they get started, one of the big expectation, or one of the things that founders need to understand is they should be a journalist. They cannot be like, oh, I'm just a developer, I'll just develop stuff, or I'm just a marketing guy, I'll just keep writing marketing copies. No, I mean, they should be kind of a generalist in some sense, and they should have like a basic understanding, like the basics of each and every aspect, like strategy, marketing, product management, sales, or even tech, right? For that matter. So, and I believe before hiring any salesperson, so there are different stages on how founders need to think about building sales engines. One, they themselves need to be a salesperson. So founder as salesperson, then founder-led sales teams. That means the founder is leading and building a sales team. Then eventually handing it over to a director of sales or VP of sales. So these are the stages. And I have spoken to multiple people, and every single time when someone hired a VP of sales without the founder ever selling has failed big time in some sense, right?
True.
Because unless you understand what you're building for, and unless you understand the customer, it's very hard for you to just say that, oh, I'll hire this excellent salesperson and he or she will build everything for me and I'll just keep coding. That doesn't work at all. Because sales in some way is a way for you to tell stories, understand people, listen to what their problems are, and most importantly, understand their emotional needs, which is about understanding their psychology, right? And as Zig Ziglar says, selling is transfer of feelings. So it's not just putting something out there and thinking that, oh, people will buy it. No. And with respect to B2B software, right, the way it has changed, like, for example, in the pre-SaaS era and the SaaS age, I would say, so it all used to be like, even we are looking at our hosted servers within our premises, or like a CD in my home, right, where we all bought a Microsoft Windows CD, but now it's no more a CD. You just go to the website, download a DMG file if you're a Mac user, and then just get started by installing your OS, right? And then it's not about buying, but it's more or less like renting. For example, now I'm even renting the table and the chair that I'm sitting in today and working on today, right? So that's the kind of SaaS age that we have, and it gives huge flexibility for the consumers, and it's a huge value even for the makers, because they get real-time feedback, and they can understand the customer pain points better and can always upgrade pretty quickly. You need not again send a new package in a CD to say, hey, here is a update for your OS. That need not be the case at all, right? So that's the biggest shift. And again, so initially it all used to be like, oh, I'm knocking your door, I'm forcing things on you, but now it's more like assisted selling or assisted buying. Like, you generate enough demand and then let people come to you, and then you merely play the role of a helper, right? That's how things have changed at different levels, like distribution, sales, marketing, and billing, right? Again, this is a symbolism, right? I used to remember a lot of folks used to knock my home, like, either selling insurance or selling different kinds of encyclopedias or different products, like AquaGuard when they launched. I remember that a lot of people used to knock our doors and say, oh, we are an AquaGuard reseller, do you want an AquaGuard? Back in the day, I think it's in early 2000s, but now it's all different, right? Like even my current Live Pure system that I use in my home to like filter my water is also like a SaaS product. So they just have an app. I pay. I just register a request. They come and deploy this, and every month I pay a certain bill, and the water gets purified. If I don't pay the bill for one day, they give a notice, and then the system also rings an alarm. So it's altogether a different way on how things are working, and that is what is all about the assisted buying piece. So you have a great website. As a stranger, I come there, and then you talk about the value, and eventually the salesperson just drops in the right minute and say, oh, do you need any help? Do you have any questions? and you're just helping them with questions and making sure that they have great experience there in understanding your product better, right? That's the big trend. Yeah, I could never finish any kind of webinar without this slide, but the whole idea here is like sales is this one-to-one persuasion, right? It's about, I mean, if all of us here remember this whole scene from Wolf of Wall Street at the end, where he says, "Sell me this pen," and different people say different thing, but then there's one guy who asks a question and then starts the sales process. So that's one way of selling. But even now, that is slowly changing. Now, again, this is given to me by my friend and advisor. He says tech sales specifically is real-time collaborative problem solving. And I found this very, very profound when I first heard it from him. And I just reflected on it. It just felt so real that this is what I have been doing for quite some time. Like, it's real time, right? In the sense that, just at least at this time, everyone is now on Zoom. And in real time, we're interacting with each other. Then we're collaborating, where the customer is telling me what are their problems, and I am trying to understand. So we are collaborating. Once a little trust is laid down there, and we are solving for the problems. So I'm not selling any features. I'm not selling anything of my product. I'm just trying to understand the problems and solve their problems. So if your product is solving it, well and good, people will buy it. Otherwise, they won't, right? So this is I feel should be the new definition of sales in some sense. Like, it's real-time collaborative problem solving, and this is what makes it very exciting for any kind of founder, right? It was for so long perceived it as an art, where anything that is not understood for us, we just say, oh, it's an art, people need to be born with it. But that's not the case anymore. I think SaaS sales is like 70% science and 30% art. And all of this, both the science and the art, can be taught and learned by anyone. That is the most liberating experience that I had, that, oh, I need not be born with. Otherwise, if you watch these movies again, people are suited up, they have this amazing charisma. That's how they project everything. But it's not the case anymore. It's about that real-time collaborative problem solving, and it's about being very scientific about the whole process, right? And the core aspect, which I mentioned earlier in my story as well, is the market, right? So it needs to be, one needs to think, even a salesperson also needs to be always aware of this, not just the founder, is who are we selling to, and what what are we chasing, right? So here is one framework that Rajan from Upeka and I, who came up, and this is initially given by 5 Point Venture Capital, Christopher, I don't remember his name, complete name, but his name is Chris. And he put this, in a way on how do you build like $100 million company, and we kind of tweaked it. So 5 ways to build a 1 million run rate business, right? So think of, if you're starting as a new with your product, and how do you take it to 1 million ARR? So this is a cool framework to think about. So if you're selling a $10 product, then you need to have like 100,000 scooters, right? So you target those small customers, bikes. And then if you're a $100 product, then it's about, you need 10,000 people of the size of a scooter. If it's $1,000, then 1,000 cars, and if 10,000, then it is 100 caravans. And if it's 100,000 product, which is the enterprise, play in some level, you would need 10 buses, right? So that's the whole idea on how you can visually think about these frameworks. It's extremely important. So when we were selling in India, if you remember, initially we were trying to sell to at 60,000 rupees price point, and then the competitors are cutting it down to 30,000 rupees. It just became incredibly tough for us. So we were chasing this segment. So that means you need 1,000 customers to hit your 1 million ARR, which is pretty hard, like damn hard. I mean, you need to get your marketing right, and reaching out to 1,000 people it's tough, right? Unless your product has some form of inbuilt virality, then it's okay. But otherwise, if you're selling to enterprises, never ever look at this segment. I would always advise people to look at these two, like if you're targeting a mid-market or an enterprise kind of a product, right? So I mean, it's on the onus of the salesperson always also to kind of get this feedback from the kind of leads and the way they are selling their product to understand, oh, are these caravans or are these cars or are these scooters? So if these are scooters, then we should not reach out to them anymore. Or if these are caravans, oh, then figure out patterns and who are the caravans and only reach out to those kind of caravans, right? That's the whole idea behind it. And again, geography plays a big implication. Like I mentioned, in India, the problem that we are solving for is perceived to be $1,000 problem, but in the US, it's perceived to be a $10,000 problem, right? So that's a big shift, and that you can also, that could be a big growth trigger as well, if you think about it. And here is how we have also like kind of segmented India global SMB enterprise, right? So if here are some examples, you can go and look up. Almabase is an enterprise selling to global market. So there's one successful product which is selling to SMB in Indian market is InstaMojo. But I found it very hard to find examples in this segment. But otherwise, I think the global markets are always a good play. And if you look at how their GTM playbook is, like for example, Social Pilot has 90% marketing and 10% sales because they're going behind the SMB. But if you look at Almabase, it's 20% marketing and 50% outbound and 30% on street, like feet on street sales, right? And similarly, like I mentioned, this is super hard, like very, very tough. And if at all a founder comes to me and asks me for any advice, I would say that this shouldn't be a market that you should go after, at least in the near term. Once you become a commodity, then probably it's okay. Once you become at a level of a Microsoft, which is like now a commodity product, then you can do this, right? Otherwise, it's super hard. Or similar to Freshdesk. Now, Freshdesk is, they've crossed their 100 million ARR mark, and they've kind of become a commodity, like the whole help desk software, right? So then this kind of becomes a little easy because you have a brand. But otherwise, initially in the first few days, you should never even look at this segment. And the way to look at this traditional funnels and the B2B, the biggest difference again is, if you look at someone selling an AquaGuard, or someone selling a car, right? Think about it. Even recently, I when I went and purchased a car with my dad, so they always look at, okay, how many visits they have to the store, how many of them took a test drive, which is the middle of the funnel, and bottom of the funnel is how many of them are ready to buy, right? That's the traditional. And then after sales, they would never even think about it, right? Because it's such a thing that you care about the car, and the car company never cares about you anymore. But now with this whole SaaS experience, I think the core is, while you have top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, and bottom of the funnel, the interesting thing is it's like manage for life at some level, where you need to onboard them, retain them, and then they open up new doors for you where you can upsell your services and products, because there is no end to the kind of problems that a company or an enterprise comes around with. And once you get a door, once you get a feet into their doors, then there are more avenues that will open up for you. So similarly, like Freshdesk, it's a classic example. They started with just a help desk, right? But now they have like 8 different products, IT services, Fresh Chat, Fresh Ping. So everything that an enterprise at some level, if they're facing any problem now, Freshworks has a solution. So that's the whole retaining and expansion. So you need to make sure that your customers are turning into fans.
So I have a question here, Sandeep. Just a short question. So in the expand phase, when you mean expand, does it always mean multi-product expansion? So do you have to reach to a stage where you got to expand into having multiple products around your core product?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there are 2 ways of looking at expansion. So one, you can just add like upgrading them to different plans based on their usage. That's one expansion, right? which is what we call as upsell at some
Right.
at a level. Then the other expansion is also cross-selling expansion, which is nothing but you launched a product which is little ancillary to what is already existing, like a supporting thing, right? Like for example, in Almabase case, so we initially started as an online community, and then we added two other products which said, oh, we'll also help you fundraise, we'll also help you manage events. So these are
Right.
around the same problem, like adjacent problems around the core problem. So that's a cross-sell opportunity, right?
Right.
So the usage base is one, and then the cross-sell opportunity, so which is the general terminology is upsell and cross-sell.
Right.
That's how you can think about it.
Sure. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, and then I want to touch upon like inbound versus outbound. So inbound is all like it's heavily dependent on marketing at some level, where you need to nail the SEO, SEM, and then again you need to have like massive search volumes to crack inbound and get that high momentum, right? So inbound is all like the whole marketing driven, and then once people get into like submit their forms, sales is all about then just helping them understand any questions or any places where they get stuck, and making sure that they convert from free trial to customer. But outbound is where it kind of becomes a little critical, where sales plays a crucial role. And as you've seen here, the shift has happened, right? Like they're not knocking at your door now, you are going and knocking their doors and saying that, hey, it looks like you might have this problem, and we have a solution for this, would you be interested in exploring, right? And that is how you generate demand, that is how you put the word out. And the sales job then initially is to qualify people, even before reaching out to them based on certain criteria, which is based on the ideal customer profile, which I'll come to it a little later. And then showcase your whole brand, because that's the only way to build trust on why even they need to give 15 minutes of their time to listen to you, right? So brand, case studies, website plays a crucial role. Then once they get in, they give you 15 minutes, you understand their problem to the core, show how your product can solve the problem, and then coach them on what are the different use cases it can help them solve in their lives, and eventually close the deal. So that's the outbound sales motion in general. Right, like
There is
yeah.
one question coming in
Sure, go ahead.
at this stage. I think appropriate to ask you at this time.
Yep.
This is from Dinesh from Interview Mocha.
Mhm.
Would you separate a salesperson in land and expand strategy as a hunter and farmer, or would you have one person to do the same?
Yeah, if I got the question, if I understood it right, and correct me, Dinesh, wrong by correct me if I'm wrong by typing in the chat. I would not use the salesperson for expansion usually, because I would deploy a customer success team, and the salesperson would work very closely with the customer success team. So in Almabase, what ends up happening is when we close a deal, we assign a customer success manager to every single account, and the salesperson and the customer success manager would get on a call with the customer to make sure that there is 100% alignment in the expectations and the goals with which the customer had in their mind when they signed the contract. And we make a very seamless handoff, like an introduction, and then the implementation gets started. And the salesperson's job from there on is to work with the customer success and kind of understand what's going on. Are they in the same timeline? Are we falling behind? And after that, once in 3 months, what we do is the salesperson has a task as a reminder saying that you should go and check the customer health by yourself. Like ask them for feedback how a customer success team is doing, right? This is independent. So the customer success team doesn't know that we are asking, in the sense that they know, but they won't be joining that call. So I talk to the customer and then figure out, okay, what's happening there, and translating that feedback back to the CSMs, right? That's how we have structured it. Yeah, so usually the ratio that we have, which I talk about, is 2 SDRs and 1 AE. That is how we pump in all the leads to the AE. And then from there, for the expansion, it is 1 AE is to 1 CSM. That's the, sorry. And then also the ratio there is also depending upon the number of customers that we get. Like one AE can close around 150 customers in a year, and then depending upon your CSM, like we assign like 20 customers to each CSM. It varies from company to company depending upon the
Type of a product.
type of accounts and the support that they need to provide.
Right. Cool.
Right. Yeah, and that's from Dinesh.
We can continue. I'll come to you with with an appropriate question.
So outbound sales, when I say about coaching, the biggest thing is about telling a story, right? So it's not about showing your features. It's not about building relationships as the old sales, the old way of working in sales. It's about really building a story and also in some level challenging the customer to kind of make them understand, to look at their problems in a much more deeper way and build a great differentiation, and then eventually convince the customer by removing objections, right? So that's extremely important in outbound sales, and I'll talk about that right now. So initially, the catch phase is where your SDR teams are kind of going through and understanding, are these the right person or not? So in Almabase, like we don't, let's say if a school from Dubai is reaching out to us, the SDR disqualifies them at some level, saying that, this is not the right ideal customer profile for us at this point in time for our growth, right? And then the coach phase is when the AE comes in and he or she says that, okay, so now we understood that you got a problem. You are our ideal customer, and we would love to work with you. So what are the current challenges, right? So we understand every single challenge. We get tons of questions during this phase, and that is when we kind of develop a relationship or rapport, I would say, and work through complete logic in the sense that, this is the problem, this is how we solve it, this is the question, this is how we handle this objection. And then the last thing is to build that trust, which is where the emotional aspect comes in, right? Where it's beyond now, in some sense, your customer logos. It's beyond your product. It's all like now an emotional play on okay, if they are going to try your product for 3 days, would they be happy or not, right? And how do you now trigger those emotions to kind of close the deal? That is what the whole close phase is about. There are negotiations there. There are also close plans there. There are agreement reviews. So that's all, but it's a huge emotional play in that phase.
Cool.
So this is, I think, the most critical piece where I think even the salesperson and the founders also need to understand is the ideal customer persona. So which industry are we going behind? What's the market segment? Are we going behind bikes or scooters or cars or caravans or bus? So we need to define this extremely well. Let me give you an example here, right? So Almabase as a product can serve to corporate alumni networks, non-profit alumni networks, high school alumni networks, and university alumni networks. But which is the one that we want to go? Do we want to go to non-profits? Do we want to go to schools and universities? Do we want to go to corporates, right? So we said that we would stick to schools and universities, not corporates or not non-profits. So that's the industry. Then now within schools and universities, what is the market segment? So we have K through 12 independent schools. Then we have a 4-year universities. Then we have 4-year professional educational organizations. Then we have 2-year community colleges. And then we have this massive universities like Harvard. What's a market segment, right? And we mapped each of this to what is a bike here, what is a scooter here. So Harvard is like a bus, right? It's like $100,000 deal. So what is it that we would go after? And we segmented that. Initially we'll start with. We initially sprayed our energy everywhere, like all geographies. We even went to Middle East, Singapore, Malaysia, Australia, and also different market segments there. Like we emailed Harvard as well, and we emailed even the small school in India, right? So we emailed everyone, and it just did not like we were like a bull in a china shop going all over the place without any direction, right? So this is what is extremely important for you to like narrow down, and then always be aware, like it at every point in time when a new lead comes in. As a salesperson, I used to get super excited and super dragged on and saying that, oh, this person from Spain is ready to close, but all we need is just Spanish language support. But no, that's like you're derailing from your original path, and you're losing focus. So if someone is coming from outside of your market segment, even though they're ready to close deals, don't go beyond it, don't go behind them. The problem is that that would add a lot of on your product side and also on your sales side, right? So don't do that. And then in the ideal customer, once you finish the ICP, then you go and into a one level deeper, saying what's an ideal buyer persona, right? So this means that, okay, now I have figured out that I want to go behind the Harvards. Let's think about it. Harvard, Stanford, all these Ivy Leagues. Whom should I reach out to? Because these are massive organizations. Do I need to reach out to the president of Harvard, or do I need to reach out to the alumni director of Harvard, or the vice president of advancement, right? So you need to get this job title, and it's always never one. You can address, or you can target an organization from different angles, but you need to just figure out the right job titles, and also understand, is that person an early adopter or not? For example, let's look at AirMeet, right? So if you or let's take example of Zoom for that matter. Um, if you ask like anyone at Almabase, hey, do you want to use Zoom? Like, we are all early adopters as a startup, so we just use it. But now if you go to a larger organization of like 100 people, and then you reach out to this person who is a huge Microsoft fan and ask them, hey, would you like to use Zoom? They might be a little reluctant, because these are not the early adopters, right? So you need to understand, and also by the title, are they early adopters or not? And the classic example here is Figma, on how they grew. Figma just went from bottoms up, and what does it mean is they just targeted an individual designer in a company. They never went to the VP of design, never. They just put the product in the hands of an individual designer. The designer used the tool, found it pretty cool, because they got bored of designing things on Photoshop, and they had a link. They just shared it with others in the team. Suddenly, everyone discovered Figma. Then once the VP of design looked at it, oh, what is this product? Aren't you using Photoshop? No, we are using Figma. So that's when the dialogue changed for them, right? So that is, you need to get that sense of who is the early adopter by their titles also.
Yeah, that's a similar strategy what Lucid Chart did massively.
Yeah, exactly, right. And the other key aspect which I recently learned, again revisited it, is the jobs to be done theory. So what the theory says is that people look for three kinds of needs, or three kinds of dimensions: functional needs, social needs, and emotional needs. And often, mostly, the emotional and the social needs outbeat the functional needs. So this needs to be like, I mean, this is a very subtle aspect that like a lot of us would get wrong. We always think that, oh, we have great features. Why isn't someone buying our product or buying from us, right? And then the famous saying is, no one ever got fired by hiring an IBM. That's a social need. Like, I won't get fired if I hired an IBM, but I might get fired if I hire a new startup product and if it doesn't work, right? So almost in most of the cases, in all these purchasing decisions, the social and the emotional needs outweigh the functional needs, right? The functional needs are like the core, like they're must have in some sense, and they're by default an expectation. But what are the social and the emotional needs that your product is solving? You need to write that down really well, and then think about baking that into your emails, baking that into your marketing, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So, and friction is nothing but a pain point, which you can again tie it back to the social needs and emotional needs, right? So here is how, I have, like, here's an example of what Cloud Cherry has done. I picked this example from them. They have like pretty, like, see the emotional needs, happy to see positive testimonials from customers, unsure about whether to trust or not. And then what kind of personality are they? Introvert, extrovert, analytical, creative, busy, or time, right? Social needs, worried about slips in experience. So this is how you can define your ideal buyer profiles, and then you can narrow it down and say that, oh, these are the kind of people that I want to reach out to. Yeah, I mean, now I want to get into the whole mechanics of how can we structure teams, right? So the catch and the coach phase usually is a mix of, like, catch is surely SDR, unless you have this whole organization structure which says that A's need to prospect and also eventually close. I mean, that was what HubSpot culture was at one time, where everyone who joins as a salesperson there needs to prospect for themselves for the first 3 months and then eventually get into the AE role. But now I think most of them have realized that what is ending up happening, and this is something my friend Precker from Whatfix has also told me, that during his early days, he in 1 month he used to hit the target, the sales target, and second month he used to miss it. Then again, the third month he used to hit it, and fourth month miss it. And he's like, okay, what's happening here? What's happening was 1 month he's focused on building the top of the funnel, doing the whole SDR job. And second month he's focusing, now that he has a good funnel, he's focusing on doing demos and closing the deals. And the third month again he's doing the prospecting. So that's when he realized that, oh shit, okay, so I'm doing like 2 people jobs. So let me hire an SDR, and then I can have more time to close more deals. That's how we accelerate the company's growth. So that's the whole catch phase, like have an SDR. And coach phase, again, it depends on your product. You can also train the SDRs to do the whole qualification. In our case, the A's do the qualification. The A's from the qualification, they trigger enough emotions for people to jump on a demo, then eventually close, right? Yeah, what the activities that are involved are live chats, email follow-up, phone follow-ups. I won't go into the details of it. These are pretty straightforward, like what catching and closing. The other way on how you can look at metrics, or how you can structure your processes, with this terminology of MQL, SQL deals, and that's how we do here. So top of the funnel, we call as MQL, and if someone after the qualification, if they have scheduled a demo, that means that's a sales qualified lead. So the sales team has qualified it, right? MQL is the marketing team or the SDR team has qualified it, saying that, oh, this is a person who's interested in having a conversation with us. And deals is finally the opportunity that we have created after doing a demo. So these are the 3 aspects that we look at, and that is how we we also structure our CRM. Yeah, in case you need a quick tip on, right after, like from Monday, if you would like to use in each of these phases. So for catch phase, send a personalized mass emailer. There's a classic Freshdesk example of how one of their reps sent an email to people and then started prospecting. And coach phase, again, one of the golden rule that we had is to call people within the first 5 minutes of filling the form. And I'm telling you, if you are able to do that consistently, your lead pipeline would be awesome. And then you always have an edge versus someone calling after 1 hour or 2 hours or after a day, right? So always try to just do this in the first 5 minutes. If someone fills a form, give a call, right? And in the close phase, usually, what ends up happening is right after if someone is asking for a discount, right? This is one tactic that you can deploy. Never, ever give a discount without you getting something in exchange for a discount. Either ask for a case study, right? Like say, hey, after 6 months, we want to do a case study with you. So would you be willing? Get that commitment, right? Or we want a review from you. That's when we give a discount. Or hey, there's a speaking opportunity on our behalf in 9 months' time, and would you be able to be a part of the speaking opportunity? We need a customer who would represent the company, so you should be willing to do that if we are asking a discount. right? So put some kind of a deal and understand why someone is asking a discount as well. Yeah, let me switch gears and talk about the key aspects of building outbound sales engine. So the two key things that are important in building an engine is prospecting, right? So that is the core, the very critical aspect, like having good data lists. And data lists have like it's now a big hassle these days. I keep getting like multiple emails a day saying that, oh, we have lists, and every time I have invested some money, I only burnt my hands because none of these folks have like good lists. So if you are targeting enterprises, boy, like you have like LinkedIn Sales Navigator is a great tool for you to start prospecting and build lists. Or there are tools like hunter.io, tryprospect.com, which is an amazing tool that I recently discovered. They have incredible information on people. It's a people search engine. You can use that and build lists. They have integration with Salesforce. If you're not a Salesforce CRM person, then you can just export that into spreadsheets, right? And then the other aspect of that whole prospecting is once you build the list, you need to write a good email copy. I'll specifically discuss about the email copywriting as well today, and then eventually also having a good pitch for your calls. And in this whole prospecting, the way it has diversified, it used to be like an automated calling process in the past. Like when I was looking at softwares in 2014 to or 2015 for us to use for this whole calling, people used to pitch me saying that, oh, you can just upload a list and it will start dialing, and only when someone would connect, then it would connect to you where you can have a conversation. So all that culture in some sense has changed. Now there is a video, there's LinkedIn, there's calling now, which you can do from your own CRM, and then you can send emails. So they're like these four, and then the recent one that I discovered is LinkedIn voice messaging. So now voice messaging, if someone is walking and then they see a LinkedIn message and it's a voice message, rather than reading, they would love to hear that. So it's easy, right? So these are different avenues or different channels or ways, and you can prospect. And the solution selling process is another thing that you need to keep in mind, because these are the people who are coming in after you have prospected them. So they don't have inherent interest. So you need to sell the solution, take this consultative approach, saying that, hey, I am here to help you and I'm collaborating with you. And HubSpot is one who has evangelized this whole solution selling process. Unfortunately, I won't go into details of it today because it in itself requires a huge session. But HubSpot has kind of evangelized it in their whole blog, so you can go through that. In Almabase, with this process, we have built like a 10-page playbook on what is solution selling, at what point we need to pitch what. So just look at the template on HubSpot, and you'll be able to build your own solution selling sales process. Like I mentioned, I want to dive into the whole prospecting with cold emailing, because I feel, at least to acquire the initial customers, one of the most or the least investment channel is cold emailing. Right.
Sure. Sandeep, before we jump there, I think now is a good time to take some questions related to this section here. So Siddharth had a question. He's the founder of rectangle.co.
Yep.
And he had a question that when customer asks for certain features which are not yet on your roadmap, right? What do you do? Which is derailing from your strength.
Yeah, man, I think this is a universal problem, Siddhartha, and this is the same question that I asked Intercom CEO last year when I met her in SaaSter. And at one point, apparently IBM came to Intercom and then said, oh, can you build this out for us? But then what they figured out is, oh, if we're building this for IBM, then we are derailing from a product roadmap. And Intercom at that stage was like, I think, 50 million ARR, right? And even at that point, they were thinking about it at such an objective, with an objective mind, saying that, oh, we are derailing from our product roadmap. And then there are this, 10,000 customers who have signed up with us, and then there's IBM, which kind of gives us a huge logo, huge brand, and this is like the best enterprise entry for us, right? Until then, they are just working with SMBs. But what they said is, no, we won't do that for like one customer. When we focus on that target segment, we'll do it. But otherwise, we'll start keep building SMBs. But sometimes there's also value in saying no for these customers, and believe me, like you would appreciate, and your whole team would appreciate, and it helps you to be aligned and move with a right motion that you have set yourselves. But the moment you feel that, oh, this feature is not there, and yeah, I mean, if you're early stage, it's easy to juggle, or it's easy to change your motion pretty quickly, right? You should be a little flexible in early stage, but as you keep growing, it's difficult to change these aspects. And to specific question of yours, if someone is asking for a feature, well, it's always it comes to this state. In some sense, you build that feature and they say, oh, we just are looking for yet another feature and we'll close this deal. They'll ask you for another thing and they'll just take you on a ride. And I'm telling you that this happened with every founder that I spoke with, even with us. Every time we got excited by a logo and they said, oh, just one more feature, we'll sign it. It never happened. So if someone is really keen, ask them, hey, would you be willing to pay $500? And $500, like anyone will have a free hand to spend $500 from that company. They don't need to go to VP level or CFO level to get their check signed or PO approved, right? Just have a small commitment saying that, oh, we will build this feature for you and others as well, but we need a commitment from you, right? So that it's a win-win situation. While usually this might take like a $5,000, but I want to charge $500, and then we would experiment with it with you, right? And if someone is paying even that amount, like the moment someone is paying $1 as well, that shows some kind of commitment, because we all value money so much, right? So even if you are able to get that $1 from someone, and if you feel that, oh, there is some value in building this kind of a thing, then yes, go ahead and build in early stage.
Fantastic. This is a classic product dilemma, right? So what I've seen also work well is you take this feature request, you work with the customer to say that, hey, we'll assess this, we'll share this feedback with the product team, and we'll come back to you. And use this time to research if there are similar customers who have similar needs around this particular feature. If you have enough votes from other customers wanting this feature, then you might as well work with the product team to bump up this particular feature in your roadmap. Else, you got to have the strength to say no at this point of time, and have the customer to work with you, for a future release of this particular feature in the roadmap. That's what works.
Yeah, totally. And I'm telling you, there are customers, when we said no, they came back after 2 years and said that, oh, we are now in the market again to relook at all the tools, and we want to educate ourselves with what's going on and what people are building, right? Because at the end of the day, there could be some change in the leadership. There's a new leader who's exciting and who's enthusiastic about implementing new technologies. So it's okay. You're not losing that customer. It's a very temporary thing, even if you're saying no.
Cool. Last two questions before I let you jump onto the next segment.
Sure.
This is from Ashwani from Airmeet. Are there specific nuances to selling to universities different from other customer personas in your experience?
To universities? Sorry.
Is selling to universities versus selling to other customer personas, are there any differences?
Absolutely. Universities don't move fast at all. So the sales cycles that you can expect are, much longer, like 6 months or so. I mean, and people are highly doubtful of any new technology there, and now they're adopting Zoom. When we started using Zoom, they haven't even heard of what is Zoom. They're still in the age of WebEx. And now if you're trying to present Airmeet, this is like, someone who's moving on a Splendor or a Hero Honda Passion, you're giving them a Tesla and asking them to ride, and they would be scared of doing that. Okay, so they should get used to Maruti 800 and then Honda City, or probably a Mercedes, then a Tesla with autopilot mode, auto driving mode, right?
Right.
So it's going to be very difficult, but you can still try, right? But I think the sales cycles, just be wary of the sales cycles. And I'll also give you my very personal example. My brother used to work in Epic Systems. He's an engineer. Uh, there are two industries who are heavily behind in adopting latest technologies for various reasons. We can have, that's a different debate altogether. But he went to one of the hospitals in the US to work on Epic's new deployment, and then the person who's there, who's IT person, was talking to other, was telling that, oh, here is a computer repair person who's here today to repair our computer systems. So that's the language also that they use. So that kind of tells you that the understanding of technology is little behind, right? And that might not be the market that you might want to go first if you're looking for growth. If you're selling an edtech product, that's different, not air meat.
True. Another question on the Figma example, in case of bottom-up approach where you start from a single person, is this true for a high growth startups as well? High growth equal to product sells like cake?
No, this is a pretty broad question, but let me just narrow it down. So is it true for high growth startups as well? At some level, yes. Like for example, Girish from Freshworks always puts this playbook outside. So he says that the way they choose markets is that there's at least like a huge search volume of a particular keyword, and there are at least some big market players already. There's a category that's created in G2, and then there is also enough competition solving the problem. And then you look at G2 Crowd's negative reviews, then there is an opportunity to solve that problem and build a tool for that, right? So that could be one way on how you can approach this whole high growth thing, where you need not, where you can just start from a single person, or you can start from SMB, right? And it's all about, I think the mechanics are, either it's virality, right, like Figma, or it could be just that high volume where people will just buy.
One last question. Do you end up giving free trials even if there is some upfront integration effort involved?
No. Again, for the integration, you can always tell people that, hey, we are committed, but why don't you just do a free trial and let us know what's your feedback. So what I do is, when I give a free trial, so there are two pieces in Almabase, our product and our integration of our product with their database, which could be Salesforce, Blackboard, etc. So 5 years down, like in 2015, we did not have integrations with any of these. But to gauge their interest, I used to give them free trial, and I used to, before the GDPR, right, we can track the usage as well, and with personal identification information. And I used to look at people, right, and how much time they have spent. So in a week's free trial, they used to spend 15 minutes. That means, no, like, this is not a customer where you would want to even invest even like another 1 hour, right, building anything, right, for them. But if someone is really keen, so what I did was I decreased the free trial from 7. Initially it was 14 days, then 7 days. Now it's just 3 days, right? So where we are saying that, okay, one day could be a busy day for you, but in the any 2 days, if you and your colleague are trying to evaluate Almabase, you make time for it. If it's an urgent need, you make time, like 1 hour, and within 1 hour you can figure out a lot of things. And that shows me the intent of the person. And if that is the intent, then I would also then go back and say, hey, we are okay to explore the whole integration. Would you be able to commit to a certain amount, saying that, sign a contract and say, you pay us only once the integration is live, otherwise don't pay us for it, right? Otherwise the contract gets void. So that is how we take a commitment upfront. Yeah, so I think one of the core aspects, like I mentioned, in outbound is the whole cold emailing aspect, right? I mean, you need to really stand out from the noise out there. And it depends on multiple factors. The kind of email copy, the frequency, number of emails that you send, your domain warm-up, it shouldn't land in spam. I mean, all these guys have great firewalls, so make sure that your domain is well warmed up and then it is landing in their inbox. Then you will never receive, so this is, you'll never receive an answer in the first email. Like yesterday, the last email that we have is in our, it's a breakup email, but we don't say breakup. We say, oh, probably now is not the right priority for you, but excuse my professional persistence. This is my last email. And my colleague sends a cool GIF of a turtle trying to climb and then falling back, right? It's a very funny GIF. And for that last 7th email, when we thought that this is the end of everything, people start replying. Right? So follow-ups are extremely critical, and customization by persona is critical. So you can't send a VP of analytics the same email versus a data scientist or a data analyst, right? So the target message for both this persona should be completely different. So here are 3 core things that I want you all to keep in mind. One is writing an email copy. Write as you speak. Forget all the Brennan Martin English that you have studied in your school, if at all you have studied Brennan Martin, right? Just keep the language simple. Just write as you're talking to your friend, and then think of this with the mindset of, how do I move this one-sided conversation, into a two-sided conversation, right? So think of it as, when you are initially on this dating apps, how do you move a conversation with a girl or a boy, being it from one-sided to like engaging the other person? Like, think of email in that sense. And always have like 100 to 120. Don't bulk it up. Be personal and be relevant in your follow-ups. And have one CTA. Have a question that is the CTA. Ask only one thing. Don't confuse them by saying that, would you like to try our product? Would you like to do a demo? Would you like to talk to our customers? All of them in one email. Never do that. And it should be always about their problems, right? So your question and your value prop, the 100 words should be about their problems. And try to find a way to tie it down to your value, the business value that you're offering by solving the problem. And most importantly, the key hack to the easy way to tie it out is by speaking about business outcomes, right? So it's always easy saying that, hey, we see, like, for example, restaurant sales. Let me take that because it's a pandemic, right? And a lot of restaurants got hit. So if you're selling it to restaurant owners, you can tell them, would you like to improve? And if I'm selling hygiene services or a delivery service or marketplace, right? Would you like to improve your sales and get it back to what it was in January last year, right? In the sense that the same volume, and restaurants like Pizza Hut, Domino's, who have been using our tracking service to give visibility about the employee hygiene and the kitchen hygiene to customers, improved their sales by 30%, right? So if you now deconstruct what I've said, you asked a question, then you have said what the other businesses are doing who are using your product and the business outcome. And this is all that could be fit in like 100 words, and that's about it. Don't talk anything, just stay calm, right? And then you would get a reply. And subject lines play a huge role. They are the ones like which will force, it's like this, think of it as a headline of an article, why you will click a particular article to read the details of it, right? Think of the email subject line in that way. Some pro tips, like I mentioned, use logos or case studies. Like I said, Domino's and Pizza, I name drop those things. That's a social validation. And these days I'm using videos and images. I am recording myself videos, voice messages on LinkedIn and sending it and getting tremendous responses for that. And another subtle trick that I've learned recently is using name twice in the email. So one is, hey, Bimlesh, and in the middle again, I would say, Bimlesh, do you think it's at least worth exploring this new hygiene technology that can help you increase sales, right? That's the second time that I use in the email. And this is a basic structure that I have put for myself and for my team on how to build an email pretty quickly. This is my first email copy that I write. I mean, I have tweaked this multiple times, but if you don't have any template, this is a good place to get started. Some of the emails that I keep receiving and which are pretty bad. So I want you to take a look at those examples. This is lousy emailing by this company. They sent it to a group email, which is sales at Almabase. They haven't done enough research and no personalization. Very generic email, as you see, nothing about my company, right? And just sent it. Very bad. Never do that. Again, similarly, right? Dear team, sales, pretty bad. And okay, this person has at least reached out to my personal, right? So staying healthy and safe. But it's all about they're just talking about them, like, oh, we are on process, still responding to LinkedIn outreach, etc. But they haven't even asked about, do I even have a problem in getting leads from LinkedIn? If I don't have a problem in getting leads from LinkedIn, why would I even look at this if my LinkedIn strategy is already successful, right? So again, that's why I never responded to this email at all. Wow, this is something interesting that I felt it's a good email. So I keep tagging in my own inbox what are good cold emails so that I can also learn from them, right? They have a very good empathetic approach, is what I felt. Like, times are tough for us right now, but that doesn't mean you only have unpleasant options. Very well connected with the current times, the current context, and then take payments. And no longer do your customer. So they're really talking about my customer problem. These are all the problems that our customers face, by the way. They're paying a surcharge of 1% to get funds immediately. So now they're saying that what does VPay do? And then they'll put a report here, and additional business of $700 per. So they put the outcome here and send me a reply if you're interested. That's it. Well, George did not ask me any question, but he gave me a good CTA, like send me a reply, right? Again, this is something that my colleague has received, right? Hey, we can get Almabase sales team selling more. Reply is a sales engagement platform, the value prop. So we did not respond to this because he's again not talking about our problem yet. But the permission line here is what really caught my attention. It has to be at least worth exploring, right? How does your calendar look for a? I mean, the polite and the persuasive tone of that line is something that echoed with me and my CEO Kalyan, and I felt that. And also look at this bigger sales pipeline for Almabase. Like, who doesn't want a bigger sales pipeline, man? Everyone wants. That's a great subject line, like a clickbait article headline, right?
And you also use the name twice.
Yeah, exactly. Use the name twice, right? So just laying down the process, have 12 to 14 touch point cadence, 7 to 8 emails, 4 calls, 1 LinkedIn outreach, mix the whole emails with a GIF, with a customer logo, with case studies, with your video messages. Use the same subject line for the first 3 emails. If no response, start a new thread. That means they're marked your thing in some kind of a folder, and you're not ever going to receive a message on the same subject lines. Change it, right? And do this testing with subject lines because you're optimizing for open rates at 1%, and then A/B the copy because you're optimizing for reply rates, right? And like I mentioned, add video. Now it has become a cool thing, and now that it has become more like a personal level, so do video, and have like 1 email touch point per week. You can also add 1 call touch point. That's the process. And some mechanics here, which I have learned by talking to different successful sales reps as well. I keep taking demos from different people and ask them, hey, okay, you seems to have a good sales process and you have been super persuasive. What can I learn from you and what's the process? So based on all the data, this is what I have got the mechanics that seems to be working. Prospect 6 to 10 accounts a day. Send to 3 people in each company and send only a maximum of 5 emails. Otherwise, Gmail or whatever mail servers would detect it as some kind of a spam. And 7 emails seems to be like a good sweet spot of an average touch point. And if someone is coming to your blog or reading content with high interest and opening it, that means they're on the fence. You can send them a little bit more emails, but otherwise 7 is good. And recycle leads once every 6 months, because people change, their behaviors change, their priorities change. And never use .com if you have a .com as your website. Like Almabase.com is our website, but we don't use for prospecting .com. We use IO or CO, because if people flag you for spam, then even your normal .com interactions with your customers will also get hampered. So look at that. And then we use things like Mailwarm and Glock apps to kind of always keep our email warm before starting the cold emailing. And we run this test once a week to make sure that the delivery rates are good in primary inboxes. These are great tools. And then for me, for list building and trying to find the exact emails I use, Try Prospect is a new tool that we are trying it out right now, but Hunter.io also have a trial. Try both of these, and Try Prospect is being used by companies like PagerDuty, etc. And some of the key metrics, if you are like building a team, part of a team, SDR, so there are leading indicators, lagging indicators, and North Star metrics. That's how I look at things. So the leading indicators are the activities, right? Like number of calls, number of emails. The call conversion and email conversion are the ones that you do post the activity. So those are lagging indicators. They don't tell you whether you are going to perform well or not this month. They're only going to give you a hindsight view of things. And for an SDR to measure his or her success, it's always good to measure the pipeline that is generated through their MQLs. That should be the target that you need to set for your SDR. And they need to always have a keen eye on hitting those pipeline generation targets. For account executives, the leading indicators are the number of demos that they're doing, and then the opportunities, and the lagging indicators, the opportunities that they've created. So there are some bunch of friction points that are between them doing a demo and creating an opportunity. So you should eliminate those friction points. The only North Star metric for them is closing deals and getting money into your bank, right? That's about it. And usually have a 2:1 ratio for SDRs and AEs. That's all.
Awesome, Sandeep. This has been very insightful, very pragmatic, and very useful as well.
Sure.
Thank you so much. So wonderful. Thank you everyone for sticking around. I'm sure you have a lot of takeaways from today's session. Once again, Sandeep, thank you so much for your time and being on PitchCamp.
Yeah. No, if people want to follow my learnings, what I do is I usually share them in a blog called saysomemin.substack.com. And some of the slides that I've used have already been in some form or the other there, and I keep writing once a week, which usually has some form of questions that I got on LinkedIn from different reps, or some things that I have discovered, because it's always a learning process. I usually share it there.
So thanks everyone again. We'll see you on.